So what are villains? How do you separate a villain from a bad person? We all have different parameters for what a villain is. I believe villains only exist in fiction, in stories. No matter how bad a person is in the real world, they can never be classified as villains. Think of some historical figures who have committed some of the most heinous acts on this planet. Do you think of that person and think they're a villain, or just an abomination, a vile, evil being? In fiction, we have villains, the bad guys, forces of evil who stand in the way of good, something or someone to be overcome. I don't mean to say that every bad guy in fiction is a villain. Villains are typically people or things that have a greater capacity for evil than the average man. I believe there are two kinds of villains in fiction. The kind you know deserve their comeuppance, but they're just too entertaining. You kind of want to see them do bad things. And then there's the villain that's just so despicably evil that you want to reach through your screen and strangle them to death yourself. It's up to you to decide what kind of villain you prefer. I prefer the first category. The villain that's just too much fun. The one you know needs to be stopped, but the one you kind of hope never does. It is incredibly easy to write Homelander off as just another evil Superman. Don't get me wrong, if I had to describe him to someone, I would probably use that description. It seems to me that people who are well versed in pop culture are tired of the whole evil Superman thing, that it has now become a trope. I think people are tired of it because it has never been that interesting. But to me, and a lot of others, Homelander is interesting. And after multiple seasons of The Boys, I consider him to be the greatest villain of all time.
I mean, they f***ing love me.
After rewatching The Boys, I am surprised at how long it actually took the show to reveal Homelander's true form. Sure, he senselessly murders criminals, but that's not what separates him from other villains. Even through his early atrocities, he still keeps his cards close to the vest. He doesn't even seem like the worst hero in his own superhero team. Before Homelander shows the audience his hand, we have seen the Deep extort and force himself upon a new teammate. We've seen Maeve be very passive-aggressive to the people around her. We've seen Translucent use his invisibility to invade people's privacy. A-Train straight up ran through a girl and covered it up, showing zero remorse. At this point, Homelander seems like a saint. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. The lesser evil. Homelander's capacity for evil isn't shown for multiple episodes. So when do things change? Everything changes with the plane rescue scene. Vought needs to show the usefulness of their superheroes to try to get them into the military. They need good PR. Homelander and Maeve set out to save a plane from a group of terrorists. At first the scene plays out like you'd expect. How many times now have we seen a superhero rescue a hijacked vehicle?
Don't know what you're talking about.
When Homelander and Maeve entered the cockpit, a terrorist is holding the captain at gunpoint. So, what does Homelander do? As the leader of the Seven, the world's greatest superhero, America's sweetheart, does he attempt to talk the terrorist down? Does he use his super speed to disarm the terrorist? No. He just lasers the terrorist's head clean off, like a knife through butter, subsequently destroying the plane's controls. Maeve tries her best to find a way to safely land the plane, while Homelander just stands there, thinking in silence. You can actually see the exact moment where he decides to let the plane go down. He walks back past the passengers, through the aisle, ensuring everyone they're going to be alright, that everything's okay, when he is already treating them like corpses. These people are nothing to him. He forces Maeve to leave with him and let everyone die. He won't even save two little girls.
No! Just these two! No, what? So they can tell the world that we left the rest of them to f***ing die? No!
Maeve looks out on the wreckage drifting ashore. She sees her failure. Homelander, on the other hand, sees opportunity. Homelander is detached from humanity. This stems all the way back to his upbringing. He was created in a lab. A test tube baby. Who knows if he even had a birth? The origin of our humanity. Instead of a mother and father, he had scientists and doctors. He was created for one reason, to be the world's greatest superhero. The scary thing about Homelander is that he knows how to behave like a regular human. He puts on this facade of America's sweetheart and uses it to hide his true nature. And he is really good at it. Most of the best villains are beings that were once good or destined for greatness. Darth Vader is made better by knowing his past as Anakin Skywalker. Heisenberg is made better by knowing his past as Walter White.
You're goddamn right.
Both of these villains have great vulnerability in them prior to their descent into villainy. Homelander is no different. At his surface, he is the world's strongest man, the greatest superhero, but at his core is incredible vulnerability. Vulnerability he is desperately trying to hide. At his core, he is just a little boy, forever longing for his mommy and daddy. He grew up in a lab, raised by doctors, who saw him as nothing more but an experiment, a project. In season 2 of The Boys, Dr. Vogelbaum tells Butcher about Homelander's childhood. He describes him as being quite sweet. He likes to curl up next to Vogelbaum and listen to stories.
Love the idea of the woods, the forest, manifest destiny.
Really, Vogelbaum is the true villain. He didn't need little John to be sweet. He needed him to be strong. He stopped reading him stories, restricted his ability to make human connection, went to work on him, made his sweetness seem like weakness.
You know, I needed him to be the strongest man in the world, so I went to work on him. He didn't even want it.
This carries over into Homelander's adulthood. He loves Stormfront in his own unique way, or at least likes her. He asks her to come into his trailer, stating he has a surprise for her. She assumes he means sex, says she doesn't have time, and takes off. We see Homelander enter the trailer, a bouquet of flowers sitting on the countertop. It even has a nice note left in it. Thanks for a great day. XO Homelander. He looks at it. At first it seems like he plans to wait for Stormfront to return. He continues to stare at the flowers. You can see something change in his face. He is now thinking, is this a bit too much? How will she react? Does this seem appropriate? And then his internal dialogue quickly becomes, XO Homelander? What am I, some kind of f***ing woman? A bouquet of f***ing flowers. You're weak. You're disgusting. A disgrace. If you show her who you really are, she'll think you're pathetic. So he burns the trailer to the ground. It's impossible to praise Homelander without addressing Anthony Starr. Yes, the writers are largely the ones to credit here, as well as the showrunner, Eric Kripke. There is so much we learn about Homelander without him even needing to speak. Anthony Starr brings it on all fronts. He can be charismatic, intimidating, brutal, vulnerable, fatherly, and even downright scary. And the great thing is that most of the time, he's slipping between these modes in an instant. This makes Homelander delightfully unpredictable. You're looking at every facial cue, listening to his tone of voice. The characters in the show are doing the exact same thing as the audience. They are terrified of him, analysing his every move. Something I want to quickly mention here is the significance of Homelander's costume. Homelander's costume is perfect. I mean, obviously it looks amazing, but the costume itself is a metaphor for Homelander himself. The costume has gravitas. It's a symbol of the people, every inch carefully crafted to convey excellence, much like Homelander himself, crafted and trained by people in suits to be a symbol of excellence. You'd expect the man underneath to be sculpted like a statue. But no, underneath all that, he's just a regular man. He's a fraud, presenting a perfect exterior, hiding his sins underneath. His costume is no different than the persona of America's sweetheart that he wears like a mask, but that's what it is. We see his face, but his costume itself is a mask. Something that really amazes me about Homelander is his relationship with his long-estranged son, Ryan. At first it seems as if Homelander only wants to be with Ryan for his own selfish needs, to fill a hole he's had inside him his whole life. He finally has a family. As their relationship grows, it really does seem to me like Homelander genuinely cares for Ryan. He is visibly concerned when Stormfront tries to implant Nazi ideals in him. He is genuinely remorseful and apologetic for bringing Ryan to Votland, where they were swarmed by fans, giving Ryan a panic attack. He sees himself in Ryan.
I do not want my son to have to go through what I went through.
This is shown even more in Season 3. Whereas in Seasons 1 to 2, Homelander seems to be enjoying the cat and mouse game with Billy Butcher. Season 3 Homelander really doesn't care that much. Whereas Season 2 ended with Butcher walking away with Ryan. Season 3 sees Ryan walking away with Homelander. Homelander failed in Season 2. He let Ryan walk away with Butcher to protect his public image. In Season 3, he does not care. He does, of course. He wants to be loved. But he decides Ryan is more important and calls the bluff on Maven Starlight, who claim they will release a video of the plane incident to the public if Homelander steps out of line. There is no denying that at his core, Homelander is evil. He's a bad guy. He is. He has become so corrupted as a result of his upbringing that there is no return. We see glimmers of his remaining humanity beyond those cold, dead eyes. There is humanity buried deep down inside of him. He feels that he needs to remove this part of him, that he needs to cut it out like a cancer. We all know that this show is going to end with Butcher standing over Homelander's lifeless body. And that's fine. That's a natural conclusion for the story. Homelander is going to die, but not because the opposition is stronger than he is. I believe that his tiny bit of remaining humanity is going to be the death of him. Dr. Vogelbaum was right. His humanity makes him weak. I think Ryan will play a big part in the death of Homelander, whether directly or indirectly. Right now, Ryan has taken his father's side, because despite Homelander's dark nature, he provides Ryan with the love and support that Butcher is currently unwilling or incapable of giving him. But what happens when that changes? If Butcher can find it in himself to be there for Ryan, what else does Homelander have to offer his son? And what happens if the answer to that question is nothing?